WWE fans have seen their fair share of chaos over the years, betrayals that shook the foundation of the company, shocking heel turns, and alliances formed in the most unexpected ways. But tonight's events on WWE Raw were something else. Tonight wasn't just a typical chaotic moment. No, this was pure carnage. A moment that will reverberate throughout WWE history. As the show rolled on like any other, fans were blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to hit. The lights flickered. The air grew heavy. And then, in an instant, everything changed. What happened next was beyond anything we could have imagined. The unthinkable occurred. Two of WWE's most dangerous, unpredictable, and violent forces, Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose, came together, not for a tag team match, not for some nostalgic reunion, but for something much darker, much more sinister. They didn't come to shake hands. They didn't come to bury the hatchet. They came for vengeance. And the target? Paul Heyman. But this wasn't just about Paul Heyman. This was a message, an ominous, bone-chilling warning to none other than Seth Rollins himself. The mastermind behind some of the most dangerous factions in WWE history had become the hunted. The so-called wise man, who had manipulated and controlled some of the most lethal forces in the company, found himself caught in a deadly game. Tonight, we saw the ultimate payback unfold before our very eyes. The setup, a shocking beginning. It was just another typical Monday night. WWE Raw was chugging along, the usual suspects were cutting promos, and the crowd was buzzing with excitement. No one expected anything out of the ordinary to occur. But something was in the air. The kind of tension you can feel, even through a television screen. A match was about to take place. Seth Rollins, WWE's architect, was scheduled to compete. The crowd's energy was at an all-time high as they chanted his name. But there was something strange about the atmosphere. It was almost as if the WWE Universe could feel something coming. It wasn't just Seth Rollins they were cheering for, it was the anticipation of something much bigger. Suddenly, it happened. The lights flickered. The darkened arena, the lights go out. The arena descended into darkness. The crowd fell silent. The usual buzz of excitement turned to an uneasy hum, as fans anxiously waited for the next part of the show. Was this part of the planned theatrics? A technical glitch? No one could be sure. And then, just as quickly as it had gone dark, the lights returned, only they didn't reveal what fans expected. Instead, what they saw sent shockwaves throughout the WWE Universe. There, standing in the center of the ring, were two of the most dangerous men to ever grace the WWE canvas, Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose. But this wasn't some friendly reunion. No. The tension between these two was palpable. Brock Lesnar, the beast incarnate, a man whose very presence strikes fear into anyone who dares to step foot in the ring with him. And then, there's Dean Ambrose, the lunatic fringe, the man who has made chaos his playground. These two had been at odds before. They'd clashed in brutal matches, their paths had crossed in violent ways, but now, they stood side by side. The fans watched in stunned silence, not knowing what to expect. And then, the unimaginable happened. The ambush, the betrayal of Paul Heyman. The crowd erupted in a mixture of shock and disbelief when Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose simultaneously turned their attention to the stage. And there, in the shadows, stood none other than Paul Heyman, the self-proclaimed wise man and advocate for Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman, the mastermind behind some of WWE's greatest moments, who had manipulated the likes of CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and, of course, Brock Lesnar himself, now found himself in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Heyman had always prided himself on being the puppet master, pulling the strings behind some of the most dominant champions in WWE history. But tonight, the strings were about to snap. The very monsters he had unleashed upon the world of professional wrestling were about to turn on him. Dean Ambrose, with his manic energy, was the first to act. In a split second, he darted across the ring and took down Heyman in a savage display of violence. The crowd gasped as Ambrose's fists pounded into Heyman's chest, as if every punch was meant to send a message to the man who had used and discarded him in the past. Brock Lesnar, however, wasn't far behind. With his usual intimidating demeanor, Lesnar picked up Heyman with ease and tossed him into the steel steps. The sound of Heyman's body colliding with the metal was deafening. For the first time, Paul Heyman, who had always been the one dishing out the punishment, was the one receiving it. But this wasn't just about Paul Heyman. No. There was a deeper message behind this brutal ambush. As Lesnar and Ambrose stood over the fallen advocate, their eyes fixed on the entrance ramp. And that's when it became clear, this wasn't just for Heyman. It was a message to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, the target of their vengeance. Seth Rollins had been a thorn in the side of both Lesnar and Ambrose in the past. While he had been in the middle of their chaotic world of betrayal, alliances, and destruction, he had also often been their target. The Beast and the Lunatic Fringe had both crossed paths with Rollins at different points, with Rollins managing to escape some of their wrath. But the timing of this ambush made one thing clear, this wasn't just random. It was personal. Lesnar had been part of the Shield's history. Ambrose had once shared the ring with Rollins as part of the same faction. But now, both men stood united, sending a chilling message to Seth Rollins, "You're next." For years, Seth Rollins had been known for his manipulation, his ability to outsmart his opponents. But tonight, for the first time, Rollins wasn't in control. Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose, two of WWE's most unpredictable forces, were coming for him. They were no longer his allies. They weren't even his rivals anymore. They were his predators. The aftermath, the WWE Universe reacts. The fans were in a frenzy. They couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. For weeks, fans had speculated about the possibility of a reunion between Ambrose and Lesnar. Some thought it was a pipe dream. Others believed it was simply an impossibility. But tonight, those speculations were violently shattered. As the medical team tended to Paul Heyman, and the arena buzzed with the sound of fans debating what had just unfolded, one thing was certain: Seth Rollins had to be watching from the back, aware that he was now in the crosshairs of two of the most dangerous men in WWE. Could this be the start of a brutal new chapter for Rollins? Was this the beginning of an all-out war between Rollins and the two men he once fought alongside and against? One thing was clear: Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose had declared war, and Seth Rollins was their primary target. The bigger picture, a new alliance. But as we watch the fallout from this brutal ambush, we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean for the future of Brock Lesnar, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins? Are we about to witness a new alliance between Lesnar and Ambrose? Could this be the most dangerous faction WWE has ever seen? Or is it all just a ruse? A temporary collaboration between two of WWE's most volatile forces before they inevitably turn on each other. What does this all mean for the larger WWE landscape? Could the battle lines between the Shield and the Beast finally be drawn? Could Paul Heyman's manipulative hands now be tied, as his creations go rogue? One thing is certain: we are on the cusp of a new, incredibly volatile chapter in WWE history. And if tonight is any indication, Brock Lesnar, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins are about to tear the house down. The question isn't just who will win between these titans, it's who will survive. As the WWE Universe braces for what's next, one thing is clear: the landscape of WWE has been forever changed. And it all starts with Paul Heyman. The fallout, Paul Heyman's role in the chaos. As the arena fell into a tense silence, the focus shifted to the once untouchable Paul Heyman. The advocate, the manipulator, the architect of chaos, who had long been at the center of WWE's most compelling storylines, now lay in a heap of anguish at the mercy of two of WWE's most violent forces. This was the ultimate betrayal. A man who had crafted the careers of Brock Lesnar and, in many ways, Dean Ambrose was now finding himself in the very position of weakness he had so often exploited in others. It wasn't just an ambush. It was a dethroning of the puppet master. Paul Heyman had always operated in the shadows, pulling strings from behind the scenes, with a smile on his face and no hesitation in his actions. He was a genius of the mind, a manipulator, the one who always had the next move planned. But tonight, the chessboard had been flipped over, and the pieces weren't where Heyman had hoped. Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose were no longer his creations, they were his executioners. Heyman, who once promised the world to Brock Lesnar, was now powerless. His past actions, his manipulation, and the monsters he had created were now threatening everything he had built. The question on everyone's mind was, how would Heyman respond? Would he beg for forgiveness? Would he try to outsmart his former clients, or would he fall victim to the chaos he had once expertly controlled? The medical team rushed to Paul Heyman's side, trying to tend to his wounds, but the damage had already been done. This wasn't just physical injury, it was the loss of control, the loss of the power Heyman had once held. For the first time in a long while, Heyman was rendered utterly powerless, at the mercy of the very men he had created to dominate WWE. Seth Rollins, the calm before the storm. Backstage, Seth Rollins watched the events unfold on a monitor. His reaction wasn't one of surprise. No, Rollins had long been accustomed to the chaos that came with the world of WWE. But as he sat there, watching the destruction unfold, a deeper realization seemed to hit him. This wasn't just some random attack on Paul Heyman. This was a declaration. A declaration that Lesnar and Ambrose were done with being pawns. They were now players in their own right, and their next target was him. Seth Rollins was no stranger to betrayal. He had lived through it. He had been the one who turned on the Shield. But tonight, the situation was different. Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose were not just allies turned rivals. They were untamable forces, and now, they had set their sights on him. The architect of WWE was about to face his most unpredictable and dangerous enemies yet. For Rollins, this wasn't just a physical battle, it was a psychological one. Both Lesnar and Ambrose had been allies, and at one point, they had fought alongside Rollins. He knew how dangerous they could be when united. But this alliance wasn't born out of mutual respect. It wasn't a united front, they weren't working together for any noble cause. They were both fueled by rage, and that made them more dangerous than ever. Seth Rollins had to prepare for war. But the question was, how would he respond to this threat? Would he dig into his bag of tricks and outsmart Lesnar and Ambrose, or would this war push him past his breaking point? The WWE Universe reacts, shocking online fallout. As the WWE Universe tried to process what had just happened, the online world was abuzz with speculation and disbelief. Social media exploded as fans and analysts alike tried to make sense of the chaos. The hashtag Ambrose Lesnar reunion started trending within moments. Fans were divided. Some couldn't believe what they had just witnessed, while others were excited to see Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose together once again. In the days following the attack, WWE commentators and analysts dissected every moment of the ambush, looking for hidden messages and clues. Was this truly a one-time partnership between Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose, or was this just the beginning of something bigger? Could this be the formation of a new faction, one that would dominate WWE for years to come? Theories began circulating that the attack on Paul Heyman was just the first step in a calculated plot to take down Seth Rollins. Fans recalled the long-running tension between Rollins and Lesnar, not to mention Ambrose's own tumultuous history with the WWE champion. Some even speculated that Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose had been working behind the scenes for weeks, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Whatever the case, one thing was clear, Seth Rollins was now on high alert. WWE fans are never shy when it comes to opinions, and it didn't take long for some of the biggest names in the industry to weigh in on what had just happened. Former WWE superstars took to Twitter, commenting on the alliance between Lesnar and Ambrose. Some were shocked, while others saw it as a long overdue reckoning. The internet was flooded with reactions. The Beast and the Lunatic, united? This is either a masterstroke or pure madness, one fan posted on Twitter. Another chimed in, Seth Rollins has to be losing his mind right now. Lesnar and Ambrose coming for him? This war is just beginning. Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose, the new faces of chaos. Let's take a closer look at the men behind the attack. Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose may have come from different worlds, but they both have one thing in common: they are forces of nature in WWE. Brock Lesnar is the beast incarnate. His reputation precedes him, and anyone who has stepped into the ring with him has felt the brutal wrath of his power. He's a two-time Universal Champion, a former WWE Champion, and one of the most dominant wrestlers in WWE history. When Lesnar is unleashed, there is no one safe. And right now, Lesnar is on a warpath, a path that seems to be leading him straight into conflict with Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose, on the other hand, is the unpredictable, wild card of WWE. The Lunatic Fringe has always been one of the most unhinged superstars on the roster. His style is chaotic, his actions erratic, and his mentality, well, let's just say it's hard to predict. Ambrose doesn't care about the rules. He doesn't care about what anyone thinks. And in the eyes of many, that makes him the perfect partner for Lesnar, a man who is just as dangerous as Brock but in an entirely different way. Together, they form a volatile combination that could wreak havoc on the WWE roster. And now, Seth Rollins has to contend with both of them. Rollins knows that this isn't just a fight for his career, it's a battle for his survival. The architect of WWE's future now faces two men who could very well destroy everything he's worked for. Seth Rollins' response: preparing for war. Seth Rollins is no stranger to adversity. He's been in the deepest of wars, against the Authority, against Brock Lesnar, and even against his own Shield brethren. But this was different. This wasn't just about rivalry, it was about survival. With Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose both gunning for him, Rollins had no choice but to prepare for the fight of his life. Will Seth Rollins rise to the occasion, outsmarting his would-be attackers like he has done in the past? Or will Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose prove to be too much for the architect? Whatever happens, one thing is certain. WWE is about to enter a new era of chaos. The war to end all wars. The question isn't just whether Seth Rollins will survive the oncoming storm, it's how WWE will cope with the fallout. Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose have declared war, and there is no turning back. The WWE Universe will be on the edge of their seats, waiting for the next move in this war of monsters, lunatics, and architects. In the end, WWE fans can expect nothing less than total chaos. And when it's all over, only one question will remain: who will come out on top in this war to end all wars? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.